Time does not forget. It waits. Beneath the crust of ancient Earth, buried in a sealed cavern untouched by light for 65 million years, a message blinks in code on a titanium plate not yet invented. In the year 3149, Dr. Aaron Vale, a temporal linguist, finds a signal pulsing through layers of fossilized data. The message is not human. It speaks of extinction, a betrayal of time itself tearing apart. Someone or something in the Jurassic era recorded a final warning meant only for the future. Now the message is live, and something else is waking with it. Setting, characters, premise. The year is 3149. Earth is not dead, but it no longer breathes the way it once did. Skies are lined with orbital grids filtering light into calculated rays. Forests exist only in biodomes maintained by climate AI. Oceans are preserved in containment arcs regulated by nanite currents. The world is stable and artificial and silent. History has been replaced by simulation. Deep beneath what was once Patagonia lies Vault 6, a subterranean archive built to protect the planet's geological memory. Inside its core chamber, Dr. Aaron Vale, a temporal linguist and paleocode specialist, works alone. He is a man of method and silence, chosen not for his charisma, but for his ability to read time like language. Aaron is in his early 40s, tall, lean, and marked by the kind of sharpness that comes from years of discipline. His lab is sterile, white walls pulsing with soft AI-guided lighting, each surface covered with fossil samples embedded with synthetic neural dust. He came to Vault 6 to study fossil-coded memory, a controversial field claiming that extinct species might have stored pre-conscious biological data, like instinctive warnings, into bone structures and growth patterns. Most call it fringe science. Aaron calls it listening. 2 weeks ago, Vault 6 detected a data anomaly, a pulsing frequency buried in fossil code beneath a 70-ton rock of fossilized tree resin, the kind only found in the Jurassic period. It should not have been transmitting anything. It should not have been possible. But the signal is there. Rhythmic, structured, almost linguistic. Aaron hasn't slept since the signal first came online. His days are consumed by attempts to decode it. The message is not in any known language, but it follows a pattern of tense shifts. Temporal dissonance. It behaves like speech caught in a loop, fighting against the constraints of time. He calls the message the word. AI systems assigned to Vault 6 tried analyzing it, but failed. They classified the signal as non-human logical recursion. Whatever is speaking was never meant to be understood by machines. That is why Aaron was called in. And after 11 days of silence, the message changed. Where once there were pulses, now there is sound. A deep vibration like a voice passed through stone. The word is speaking now. And today it said his name. The problem arises. Tension builds. The voice had no origin. It came through the resin like thunder trapped in glass. It repeated the same word again and again. Vale. Aaron froze the first time he heard it. Vault 6 ran its standard auditory diagnostics. No internal malfunction. No external broadcast interference. The voice came from within the fossil. He recorded the sound. Ran wave analysis. No digital signature. No echo trail. It wasn't synthesized. It wasn't playback. It was a raw emission, a voice calling through time. Aaron activated his backup memory implant and reviewed the signal history. The pulse had started as a nonverbal rhythm, then evolved. Structured gaps began to appear between the waves. A linguistic pattern emerged based on time intervals, not language syntax. It was speech in the fourth dimension. He fed the wave patterns into a chronotemporal interpreter. The system returned only 3 words. Vale, come listen. It was not a command. It was a plea. Aaron's hand trembled slightly as he opened the isolation chamber containing the fossil. The resin was dense, amber-black in color, carbon dated to roughly 160 million years. Yet embedded within it was a metallic sliver, not natural. He scanned the object inside the fossil. It was shaped like a spiral, titanium alloy, a material not discovered until 2783. Impossible. He instructed the Vault AI to initiate deep molecular imaging. As the layers were digitally peeled away, a structure became visible. Not just an object, an artifact, a disc with radial markings not etched but grown into the metal. It looked like writing. A spiral script repeating one symbol over and over. A circle intersected by a jagged line. He had seen that shape once before. In a classified report filed by a failed expedition to Mars in 3115. The mission had recovered fragments of unknown alloy buried under Martian sediment. The same spiral. The same jagged symbol. The mission was never publicly disclosed. Aaron's clearance gave him limited access to that file. Enough to remember one detail. The Martian fragments emitted a signal too. Identical frequency. Someone or something had buried the signal across 2 planets, in 2 time zones. And now the voice inside the fossil was speaking again, this time with new words. Vale, listen now. Timeline fractured. They are watching. He stepped back. Cold ran down his neck. Who was watching? He locked the lab. Disabled external AI access. Switched all systems to analog interface. Vault 6 ran off isolated cores, but he was taking no risks. He stared at the fossil. What was the connection between Mars and Jurassic Earth? How did this message survive 160 million years? Why was it calling him by name? He initiated a full data freeze. Recorded all wave patterns. Input them into the temporal resonance simulator, a tool designed to test theoretical interactions between future tech and past environments. The simulation crashed. A single red line blinked on the screen. You are not alone. Suddenly the lights in the vault dimmed. Power surged. Systems began to reboot on their own. Aaron's manual override failed. Emergency protocols engaged. A voice echoed to the vault speaker. Not the AI. Not the fossil. Something else. You opened it. Now time sees you. A sharp pulse struck the air. Not sound. Pressure. Aaron collapsed. His implant overloaded. When he woke, 3 hours had passed, and the fossil was gone. Aaron crawled to his feet, blood on his temple. He triggered the emergency scan. No breach detected. No access logs. But the artifact was no longer in its containment shell. In its place was a single marking on the chamber floor, drawn in ash, the spiral, with the jagged line, and beneath it one word scratched into the metal. Again, Aaron accessed the vault's internal records. All logs from the past 12 hours had been erased. Not wiped, burned. Fragments remained like corrupted DNA. He needed answers. He needed outside access. He connected to Lenara Station, the orbiting scientific observatory above Earth's equator. It had deeper archives. The transmission went through. A familiar voice answered. Dr. Malin Rowe, a xenolinguist and Aaron's only remaining colleague from the Fossil Code Project. I was expecting your call, she said without greeting. Aaron froze. You heard it too? I did, she replied, but not through the fossil. He leaned forward. Where then? She hesitated. Through me? Let me know if you'd like to. Continue to the climax, next 1,500 plus words. Review or change anything in this rising action, or add more characters, flashbacks, or background science. Once you approve, I'll move on to the climax, where the core mystery unravels and danger escalates. Ask ChatGPT. Major turning point, biggest challenge. Aaron stared at the comm screen. Malin's face flickered with interference. Behind her, Lenara Station's data chamber glowed with cold blue light. She looked pale, older than he remembered. Her eyes didn't match her voice. Something behind them had changed. You said you heard it through you, he said. Explain. Malin leaned closer. Her voice dropped. It isn't a voice, Aaron. It's memory, compressed across time like a fossil. It doesn't speak to machines. It speaks to what remembers being alive. That's impossible, he replied. She raised her sleeve. Under her skin, faint light pulse in a spiral pattern. The symbol. I didn't touch the artifact, she said. I dreamt it, and when I woke, this was there. Aaron's throat tightened. What does it want? Malin's voice cracked. To be finished. He froze. Finished. She nodded. It was never a message. It's a seed, grown across time, waiting for enough memory in the world to bloom. That's why it buried itself in the Jurassic. The life back then was vast, dense, unfiltered. It stored the blueprint in instinct, and it needed someone in the future to activate it. Why me? Because you believe language can break time. Aaron stood in silence. The fossil hadn't been a container. It was a carrier. The object inside was a temporal parasite. It didn't just exist across time. It fed on it. His mind raced. If it's blooming now, what happens when it finishes? Malin looked directly into the screen. Everything rewinds. The air in Vault 6 grew colder. The lights dimmed again. Aaron checked the atmospheric control. Still functioning. But pressure was dropping. He looked at the security feed. In Chamber 7, the walls were shifting. Not collapsing, changing. He rushed to the chamber. Inside, the metal walls had turned translucent. Layers of Jurassic terrain were phasing through the architecture. Ferns, humid air, the echo of ancient insects. A tear in time. He raised a scanner. The spiral symbol pulsed in the center of the room, hovering midair. A temporal bloom. Suddenly, a figure stepped through the spiral. It was him. Older. Eyes hollow. Skin marked with the same spiral tattoos as Malin. I tried to stop it, the older Aaron said. The younger Aaron staggered back. Were you? Not what? When? The elder version stepped closer. It isn't a message. It's a mind, fractured across epochs. It uses memory as its roots and language as its leaves. Every time someone tries to translate it, they grow it further. Aaron's pulse surged. Then how do we kill it? The older Aaron shook his head. You don't. You forget it. Back on the Naris, Malin sent him a final file. A pattern. A linguistic kill switch. Not a code, but a counter-memory. A set of phonemes designed to erase neural resonance. But using it had a cost. If spoken, it would erase not just a memory of the word, but of everything connected to it. Everyone, including Malin, including the part of Aaron that had heard it. He stared at the pattern. 10 symbols. 1 chance. The walls around Vault 6 cracked. The jungle sound of the Jurassic roared through. He activated his memory implant. Began the sequence. The older version of him watched in silence. You'll forget me, he said. I already have, Aaron replied. He spoke the first word. Reality bent. He spoke the second. The bloom dimmed. Third. Time staggered. Fourth. Fifth. Sixth. The spiral began to collapse. Seventh. His vision blurred. Eighth. He forgot the name of the fossil. Ninth. He forgot Malin. 10th. The vault stood quiet. Empty. Aaron Vale stood alone in a cold room, staring at a slab of ancient resin. No pulse. No spiral. No message. He blinked. Why was he here? No memory. Just silence. Would you like me to continue into the falling action next, where the consequences settle in and the emotional weight unfolds? Or would you like to change or expand anything in this climax first? Ask ChatGPT. Aaron Vale no longer remembered the fossil. He stood in Vault SAXS core chamber surrounded by silence. The resin block on the examination table was inert. No signal. No pulse. The data logs were empty. He checked the date. July 28th, 3149. His own name on the assignment sheet. His own signature on the vault entry forms. But no recollection of arriving. No record of discovery. The fossil was just a fossil now. Aaron sat alone for hours, staring at it, waiting for a spark, a glitch, a voice. None came. His implant was still functional, but a large segment of his memory was missing, cleanly erased like a hard reset. Neurodiagnostics reported no trauma, no corruption, just absence. And in that absence, peace. Vault 6 ran quietly. Automated routines resumed. The AI offered no alerts. Power stable. Environment stable. Still, something haunted the edge of Aaron's awareness. A shape, a sound he couldn't name. Every night in his dreams, he stood in a jungle filled with stars, and someone was calling to him through the leaves, a name he once knew. Each morning the dream faded before he could hold on to it. He filed a basic report with Central Archives. Fossil analysis. Inconclusive. No anomalous signals. Subject returned to containment. They didn't question it. He sent a message to Lenara Station. No reply. There was no record of Dr. Malin Rowe ever working in xenolinguistics. No personnel file. No credentials. Just a ghost entry. Tag as expunged. He tried once to request restricted archive access to the old Martian expedition data. Access denied. The files had been sealed permanently by a directive dated 2 weeks before his birth. Aaron didn't press. Something deep inside told him to let it be. 3 weeks passed. Vault 6 received new samples from a dig site in southern India. Fossils from the late Triassic. Nothing remarkable. Aaron ran the usual scans. Then he paused. One of the samples, a small fragment of amber, held a strange pattern within it. Not a signal. Not even a design. Just a small imperfection. A spiral. Crude. Natural. Random. Still, it made his heart skip. He turned away. Let it go. In time, the dreams faded. He stopped hearing the jungle. Stopped searching for voices in the stone. But sometimes, when the wind passed through the ventilation shafts just right, it made a sound that brushed the edge of language. And he would pause. Forget why he had stopped working. Forget what he was listening for. Then keep going. Would you like me to proceed with the ending, resolution and closure, where we wrap up the story emotionally, thematically, and with finality? Or should I expand or shift anything in this falling action section first? Ask ChatGPT. Aaron Vale retired from active research 6 months later. No scandal. No incident. Just a quiet resignation filed through a secure line. Central Archives approved it in under an hour. He moved to a weather observatory in the Arctic Circle. Remote. Simple. No fossils. No AI labs. Just wind and ice and sky. He told himself he wanted peace. But part of him was still listening. Each night the auroras would ripple overhead, and he would sit outside the dome wrapped in thermal gear and silence. Sometimes he would hear the crackle of frozen air across metal rails and think it was a voice, a familiar voice. He never spoke of Vault 6 again, never spoke of the dreams. Yet his journals, though sparse, grew more poetic over time. Short passages that wander between science and something deeper. One entry read, "The past is not behind us. It coils around us. It waits in stone and thought and blood. We are not the end of time. We are its echo." Another, "If language survives extinction, then memory is immortal." 15 years later, on a spring evening at the observatory, Aaron Vale passed away quietly in his sleep. No records were found of any immediate family. His last will contain only one instruction: bury me with stone. They laid him to rest beneath a glacier shelf, beside a boulder from the Jurassic stratum. Simple, dark, uncut. No inscriptions. Just a rock. A year after his death, a glaciologist discovered something unusual. The stone left at Aaron's grave had a natural fault line in its center. Along the fault, weathering had shaped a strange pattern. It looked like a spiral, intersected by... Now she stood again at the iron entrance gate, watching as it slid open without a sound. A wall of heat rushed out, dry and metallic. The old research facility had been shut down after the fire, after the disappearances. She never expected to return, but the call came 2 days ago. Official. Cold. One word. Containment. She stepped inside. The lights buzzed overhead. Most were dead or flickering. No one greeted her. Just a low hum of ventilation and the faint echo of dripping water. Her boots echoed on the concrete as she walked deeper. The place was buried under a desert plateau, a 6-level substructure carved into rock, built for genetic research, once considered too unstable for open labs. They called it the nest behind closed doors, not because of the layout, because of the behavior. She took the elevator down to level 3. It moved slower than she remembered. When it stopped, the doors creaked open. A figure waited. "Dr. Reese," said a voice. She turned. Major Eric Danner. Military escort. Tall. Worn. His left arm had a visible scar from something with claws. "You came alone?" he asked. No one else answered the recall. she said. He nodded. Then it's just us. They walked down the dim corridor. The facility was colder down here. Lena glanced at the scratched walls and remembered how quickly things had fallen apart last time. What happened? She asked. Danner hesitated. 4 researchers missing in 6 days. No sign of breach. Security footage wiped. 1 body found in the vent system. Half-eaten. Same pattern as before? He didn't answer. He didn't have to. She stopped at Lab C. The reinforced glass was cracked. Inside, overturned tables and spilled vials littered the floor. Blood on the wall. Dry. Finger streaks dragged across steel. This was Lyle's lab, Lena said softly. He worked with juveniles. Danner looked at her. You still think they were animals? No, I never did. They moved on, down into the lower levels, into the dark. Level 5 had been sealed. She requested access. Danner opened it with a key he wasn't supposed to have. The metal gate screeched. Inside, the air felt thick, heavy with dust and something else. Decay. Lena turned on her flashlight. The beam swept across the floor. Claw marks. Long, deep. Not random. She stepped closer. Her foot brushed something. She looked down. A boot, still attached to a leg. She didn't scream. On the far wall, someone had written in blood, letters uneven. Desperate. They remember. Danner stepped beside her. They weren't bred to forget. No, she said. They weren't bred at all. They adapted. Truden was supposed to be extinct. Lena shook her head. They weren't extinct, just buried. And now they were awake. Lena and Danner moved deeper into the lower corridors of site data. The lights no longer worked here. They moved by flashlight only. Concrete walls narrowed as they passed into older maintenance zones. Most of these rooms had been in use for years, but footprints covered the dust. Small, bird-like, 3-toed. They weren't made by boots. Lena crouched near a hatch. Scratched metal lined the frame. They're using the vents again, she whispered. They're not rats, Danner muttered. They're playing with us. They reached the old observation chamber on level 6. It was half collapsed. The control panels were shattered. The security feed was black. But on the far wall, something had been carved into the concrete. A nest, drawn with sharp claws, etched in jagged loops. Around it were smaller symbols. Truden memory signs. She had seen them before. Not random, not decorative, communicative. They're marking territory, she said. Danner looked around. Or claiming it. A sound echoed from above. Scraping metal. Lena swung her light upward. The vent panel was open. She stepped back. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Every second here made it clearer. Something had survived the purge. Not just survived, grown smarter. Danner raised his weapon. This place should be burned. They just relocate, Lena said. Truden adapted once. They'll do it again. They heard the sound again. From behind this time. Fast. Light. Something ran across the ceiling grid. Then silence. Danner signaled. Move. Quietly. They followed a narrow path toward the records vault. Lena hoped something there might give her a clue. Behavior logs, growth patterns, anything. Inside, the vault was untouched. Shelves lined with sealed data drives. She found the drawer marked Truden Phase 4. It had been broken open. Every drive gone, except one. She pocketed it. Then something clicked behind them. They turned. A figure stood in the doorway. Barefoot, dirty, eyes wide. Dr. Reese? It was Jules Marin, former junior tech, listed as missing 6 months ago. Her clothes were torn, her hands scratched. She looked barely alive. You're not supposed to be here, she said. Lena stepped forward. Neither are you. They let me live. I think they wanted me to see. Who? You know who? Jules pointed to the vent above. They're not like the others. These aren't animals. They watch. They understand doors. Codes. Routines. I think they even understand fear. What did they do to you? Danner asked. They tested me. Her voice cracked. Then she screamed. Danner grabbed Lena and pulled her back. The ceiling vent above Jules burst open. Something fast dropped onto her. Claws. Teeth. Silence. No roar. Just the sound of flesh tearing. Then gone. Jules was gone. Blood on the floor. No body. Lena stared at the empty hall. Danner closed the door and locked it. She was bait, he said. They're watching every step. Lena held up the data drive. I need to see what's on this. They retreated to the old comms room. It was buried under shielding, still partly functional. Danner secured the door. Lena plugged in the drive. The screen lit up. Footage played. A lab. A cage. Inside, a Truden. Small. Agile. Eyes reflective. But it wasn't pacing. It was solving puzzles. Metal-shaped puzzles. Button sequences. Pattern matching. The final log showed the creature unlocking its own cage. Then the camera cut. Lena leaned back. They didn't break out. They learned how to escape. Danner loaded a new magazine. Lena whispered, "We're not in a research facility anymore. We're in theirs." An alarm burst through the speakers. Not one from the main system. A manual override. Ancient. One of the original emergency warnings from the pre-fire days. Red light spun along the ceiling. A deep siren echoed through the halls like a heartbeat. Danner jumped to his feet. That signal comes from core control. That level is sealed, Lena said. Not anymore. He cracked the door. The hallway was red. Every shadow looked like movement. Lena followed him, heart pounding. The halls were tighter now. Metal pipes ran along the walls. Scratches on every surface. They'd passed the access point for the old water tunnel. The hatch was open, bent outward. Something came through here, Danner said. No, Lena replied. Something dragged something out. Suddenly, a noise above them. Sharp clattering across the vent. Then a second sound. Another vent. Different direction. They froze. Danner whispered, "They're surrounding us." Lena pulled a signal flare from her belt and lit it. The red flame hissed to life. The first Truden dropped into view. It didn't roar. It clicked, head tilted, watching. Its eyes shimmered gold in the flare light. It moved like water. Each step quiet and precise. Danner fired. The shot missed. The Truden vanished into the dark. Then another emerged from behind them. It lunged. Danner caught it midair with a burst of rounds. Blood sprayed across the wall. The creature crashed to the floor, twitching. Another hiss echoed. Then a third. A fourth. They were everywhere now. Lena grabbed Danner and ran. They sprinted down the corridor. A claw slashed the air behind them. They turned down a stairwell and sealed the metal door behind them, breathing hard. Lena looked up. We can't keep running. They're hurting us, Danner said. Not chasing. Guiding. To where? They reached the control chamber. Inside, the command panel blinked. Still active. Lena rushed to it. Give me 1 minute, she said. Danner stood guard, rifle ready. The screen showed the facility map. Heat signatures everywhere. Red dots moved through the walls. Vents. Pipes. Behind every room. Lena found a section labeled Biohazard Purge Protocol. Can we trigger this manually? She asked. It'll fry the entire level. Oxygen seals close. Temperatures spike. Creatures inside burn. And us? If we're still here? Same fate. Lena didn't blink. Let's set it. She keyed in the override. A countdown appeared. Biohazard purge initiating 180 seconds. Then the door burst open. A Truden slammed into Danner. He fired twice. The rounds hit the creature, but not deep enough. It thrashed. Another came through the ceiling. Lena grabbed the emergency torch from the wall and swung. Flames met scale. The creature recoiled. Danner shoved the injured one off and slammed the door. They backed toward the elevator. Another Truden dropped into the room. This one was different. Taller. Older. Its face was scarred. It didn't move. It just stared, like it remembered her. Lena stepped back. That one was from our original tests. It knows you, Danner said. I was the first face it ever saw. She pressed the elevator call button. No response. The countdown on the purge system ticked down. 60 seconds. The Truden tilted its head. Then it hissed. Behind it, more shadows moved. They didn't attack. Not yet, Lena whispered. They're deciding. 30 seconds. Suddenly, the elevator whined to life. A door opened. Danner pushed her inside. The Truden rushed forward. Danner fired his last shots. The doors closed. Lena screamed, and oh! A single claw stabbed through the closing gap. Then silence. The elevator rose. She was alone. Lena knelt against the wall, hand on her stomach, breath short and fast. Danner was gone. The door had closed too late. His last act was to save her, and she had no words left for that kind of loss. A deep thud echoed below her. Then another. Then a dull roar, mechanical and final. The purge system had activated. She imagined it. Doors slamming shut, oxygen pulled from the vents, temperatures rising. The shrieks, the clawing, the silence that would follow. The elevator reached the surface. The upper levels were empty. A thin layer of dust had settled on every console. The facility had always been isolated, but now it felt like a grave. She walked through the long corridor past blown lights and open doors. At the main entrance, sunlight poured through the half-closed gate. She stepped out. The air burned her lungs after days underground. A helicopter waited near the far ridge. Black, unmarked, 2 armed men stepped forward. They didn't ask questions. They just nodded. She climbed in. The pilot lifted off without a word. As the ground fell away, Lena looked down one last time. The desert stretched flat and dry, but she knew what was buried below it. They flew for hours. No one spoke. No one had to. When they landed, she was met by 3 men in suits. One of them handed her a tablet. She scrolled through it. A report was already written. Accidental chemical leak. Internal explosion. All research lost. All personnel unaccounted for. Lena looked up. You already wrote the ending. The man didn't blink. There are no creatures left argue with it. Are you sure? He hesitated. Only for a second. She handed the tablet back. You don't know what they were. You never did. Doctor, he said calmly, we know enough to close the file. They gave her a ride to a military base. Clean room. Empty chair. She changed. Ate. Slept. 2 days passed. Then someone slipped a note under her door. No name. Just a location. Chile, Patagonia. Mining site. Unexplained seismic patterns. Organic heat signatures. No known wildlife. She folded the note. Burned it in the sink. But the name stuck in her mind. Truden. They weren't gone. They were moving. 2 months later, Dr. Lena Reese stood at a museum exhibit, staring at a replica of a Truden skeleton. It looked harmless here. Thin bones, delicate claws, teeth like needles. The plaque described it as small-brained, fast, bird-like, one of the last dinosaurs before the extinction event. Lena knew better now. This was not a relic. It was a warning. Behind her, tourists passed without noticing. Kids laughed. Parents read facts off plastic signs. No one looked at the eyes. Hollow sockets frozen in silence. No one knew what those eyes had once learned to do. Her phone buzzed. An encrypted message. No subject. No sender. Just coordinates. She didn't open them. Not yet. Back at her apartment. The door was already unlocked. She stepped inside. Slowly. Quietly. On her kitchen table sat a memory card. She plugged it into her laptop. A video opened. A dim hallway. Flashlight shaking. Heavy breathing. Then movement. A figure darted across the far end. Small. Fast. Watching. The person filming whispered something. A name. Danner. Then the screen went black. Another clip began. A jungle clearing. Dusk. A strange nest carved into the roots of a tree. Then the sound of footsteps. Not human. Claws. The feed cut. Lena closed the laptop. She knew what the message meant. They had survived the purge. Or at least one had. Maybe more. They weren't just hiding. They were spreading. That night, she couldn't sleep. In the dark, she thought about the look on the elder Truden's face. The one that didn't attack. The one that remembered her. It didn't move like an animal. It moved like something calculating. She pulled out an old map, circled sites, closed facilities, old mines, recent earthquakes. She found a pattern. They weren't staying in one place anymore. She packed a small bag, supplies, batteries, torch, tracker. She stared at the screen one last time. The message blinked. Coordinates confirmed. Biotrace active. It was waiting. She left the apartment just before dawn. The street was quiet, but something rustled in the alley nearby. She turned. Nothing. A breeze. A shadow moved. Fast. Low to the ground. Too fast. She stared into the dark, then walked on. Truden had once been extinct. Now it was becoming something else. Something patient. Something that could wait in alleys and tunnels and shadows. And one day, maybe it would no longer wait at all. 2 months later, Dr. Aiden Cross sat in a cold office filled with warm lies. His field notes were sealed in a drawer. Every time he tried to submit a paper, someone from Hale's company intercepted it. Friendly emails, empty promises, then silence. He stopped trying. Instead, he gave lectures on fossil theory, safe topics, controlled subjects, skeletons that didn't move when you turned your back. But sometimes, while he spoke, his voice caught, especially when someone asked about predator behavior. One night after a long lecture, a student approached him, young, sharp-eager. "Dr. Cross, you said no dinosaur evolved to hunt for pleasure. But what if one did?" Aiden's hand tightened around his pen. "I've seen a lot of theories," he said, "but pleasure's not science. It's instinct. And sometimes it's worse than instinct. Sometimes it's memory." The student frowned. "Like trauma?" Aiden nodded. "Like a scar that never fades. A mind that remembers what it was. And what it did." The student left confused. Aiden stayed in the lecture hall long after the lights dimmed. He had dreams now, not of the jungle, but of cities, of claw marks on glass buildings, of traffic lights swaying over empty streets, of deep, heavy footsteps echoing through alleys. He stopped watching the news. Too many animal attacks in regions once marked by satellites. Too many hushed disappearances. One morning, he received a package. No return address. Inside was a hard drive. Encrypted. Old tech. He plugged it into his offline system. Video opened. Drone footage. Trees. Movement. Then a face. Elena. She stood in front of a stone wall. Behind her were cave drawings, ancient ones, showing horned beasts chasing men. Not hunted. Hunted by. She looked straight into the lens. "I told you never to come back," she said. "But I did. One last time. You were right. It's not just one." The feed cut to static. Aiden stared at the screen. The date on the file was last week. She was alive. Still in the jungle. Still fighting. He looked to the locked drawer. Opened it. Pulled out the map. Folded. Faded. But not forgotten. He didn't know what he'd do next. But he knew what he couldn't do. Forget. Some truths are too sharp to bury. Some monsters don't sleep. Some still walk. A jagged line.